Ross Dellinger had an article a couple weeks ago. We talked about this with Brian Kelly's quotes about the new enforcement arm of college football that is coming. Well, it's become official. They announced it today. In conjunction with the NCAA, the power conferences have said that they are moving towards a model where they will operate under a different rule set than the other schools that are opting out of the pay for play, as we will use air quotes around that, the $20.5 million salary cap. And basically what they outlined today in their release is everything that we already knew, right? There will be an enforcement arm that will hold coaches and universities accountable for violating the rules, unlike the NCAA. They will have the ability to fine universities, suspend and fine coaches, suspend players, actually punish quickly, too, the universities that break the rules in college sports. Seems good because the NCAA had zero power, and now this is something that is going to be widely accepted, and it will be within the parameters of the House settlement. The other things that they will have is they have hired a company, LBI Software, to develop a cap management and reporting platform. So every school is using the same thing, inputting all of the financial data and how the cap
that
will
way
be distributed.
There's no wiggle room or fudging or moving around of certain things. And even though it's going to exist, and you've seen a lot of people around college football say, yes, it'll exist, but the legal case that's going to come out of this is the lack of prohibition on NIL spending.
Well, and it, by the way, the LBI software, MLB and the NBA both use it. Deloitte is also part of this release, and that's the one that we talked about, where they're the ones, it's going to be the third party to review and evaluate all Division I athletes' third-party NIL deals valued at $600 or more, which would be required to be reported under the new proposed settlement. Part of the House settlement is that any NIL deal over $600 from a third party is going to have to be reported. This is where they're going to start taking losses, though, because Deloitte is a company that they're creating a system to evaluate whether it is a fair market deal.
Here's what fair market is, folks.
Not going to happen.
Fair market is whatever anybody's willing to pay you.
And
that's the whole idea of fair market.
This is going to be the big issue. The United States government will not take them saying, no, you can't tell them what they can earn unless it's collectively bargained.
Yes.
And then they're going to say, well, we can't really collectively bargain because then they become employees. And they're still fighting they're not employees.
It's like, it's going to get there eventually.
So they're just going to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, the third party deals.
You either make them employees and you collectively bargain this, and there are things and guardrails that you put around stuff, or you shut up and you swallow the fact that the big boys are going to be able to still do big boy things. That's the reality of this. What's interesting about this, two of the committee members that are on the committee that are framing this are Scott Barnes at Oregon State and Ann McCoy at Washington State.
Well, that is because the Pac-12 is part of this.
Still part of this.
They are part of the power conferences. So what it was, the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, Pac-12, and NCAA were the ones preparing all of this format, how it is going to play out, and we can kind of call it what it is, a split from the NCAA, right? This is going to be them saying, nope, NCAA is not operating those conferences, and all other 10 conference commissioners that play football, right? So that would be your Power 5 and your Group of 5. They were also involved in this, but the Pac-12 was separated with the other conferences. That is probably the best piece of news that you could get if you're an Oregon State or Washington State fan right now.
Because you still got both feet in the club.
You were allowed to be part of the conversation. Now, in a year, they could vote you out.
Sure.
And they very easily could just say,
the work ain't done, but you're still in the club.
Thanks for playing the games, but deuces. So it is encouraging though that they didn't have just one; they had two voices in the planning of this. Whereas if you look at it, Texas A&M, Kentucky, those are SEC schools. They had two. The ACC had two. The Big 12 had two, and the Big 10 had two as well, with Washington's Pat Chun and Ross Bjork from Ohio State. Each one of the conferences had two, and the Pac-12 had two members in it. Both of them had a say in it. That's great. That's good news for Oregon State and Washington State and the rest of the teams that are joining the Pac-12 too, because now it's like, it's not just, if you're a fan of Boise State, for example, who's going to join up with them, you're saying, all right, we at least still have a seat at the big boy
The
table.
work ain't done, but you haven't been kicked out yet.
Long way to go. But that's kind of the update, is that from what Dellinger was reporting, it is moving forward. They did announce it today. There's still a ton to work out. Yeah. But I think for me, especially as a fan of college, one of the things that it was a little bit discouraging was the fact that we had so many schools that were just thumbing their nose at the NCAA and knowing the NCAA couldn't and wouldn't do anything about it. And now there are gonna be penalties if you cross the line. And they're all accepting of it, saying, all right, we're going to rein this back in.
It's not you didn't know. It's not the Wild Wild West. It's still the Wild West.
And look, like, people can have the idea that they blame NIL. I think the bigger issue with the way that college sports has gone is that the NCAA had no teeth anymore, and everybody knew it. And so they just said, screw it. We're going to power right through.